right. Hello, Internet. I'm Keats, and welcome to Derail Valley. My goal today is to basically do a getting started guide for people new to Derail Valley. Now, I'm here outside the tutorial shed, and I have just completed the main part of the tutorial. I figured no one needs to see that again. Everybody can do that on their own. What I'm going to talk about is what to do after that. How to get started with your first job, where to go, that kind of thing. Sorry for the delay. I had a bit of trouble getting my chat window to appear here in VR. If anybody decides to join, I should be able to see if they ask any questions or want to see anything in specific. Most of everything I talk about will be applicable to all players of the game, whether in VR or on a flat screen monitor. But the first few things I do want to talk about will be specific to VR players only. I am playing on my Oculus Rift CV1 with the touch controllers. They look like this. I'm not going to go over specific control modes for VR because every headset has different controllers. So you need to go over those on your own. But I am going to talk about a couple tips that I have. The main one being to use the height setting in the menu to your advantage. For instance, I loaded the game standing in my room here, and I set the height to my actual height, which is 6'2". Now you can see when I get inside the cab, I'm really tall apparently, and it's not comfortable to reach the controls. So there's two things I can do here. The first one being go to the menu and change my height so that I'm actually standing more comfortably within reach of the controls, which is what I do in the Steam engine because I like to play that standing. However, it's more comfortable to play for a long time sitting down. I happen to be right in front of my couch, so if I sit down on my couch, just luck would have it that my height of 6'2" in game while sitting puts me within very comfortable reach of all the controls. This is how I like to play. If you want to sit a little higher, adjust yourself up and down as such. The other thing for VR users that I'm going to demonstrate real quick is the switch. This is probably pretty obvious, but it tripped me up the first couple times. The tutorial shows you how to use the remote to change the switch, but you can also do it manually. When you approach it in VR, there's this big handle here that looks like you should grab it and flip it. But that's not actually the case. All you need to do is put your controller into the switch and click the trigger. That'll change your switch. And back, either hand. So that tripped me up the first couple times. So there it is. Let's go back over to the shed and get started. This is the other time I like to stand, is when I'm looking at the table. Now here's all the stuff you get at the end of the tutorial. Your licenses, you don't need to carry around, but what you'll end up with is your train driver license, which basically just says you completed the tutorial, your shunter license, which means we can operate any of the shunters in Derail Valley, and your freight haul license, which means out of the 3 job types, we can only do the green freight haul jobs right now. You also get your Derail Valley guide, which I definitely encourage you to read, but I'm not going to go through, and the train basics guide, which is the same deal. The only thing I want to highlight in here, oops, there it is. Actually, 2 things are the signals for speed. When you see your speed, multiply it by 10. So 5 is 50, 6, 60, so on. And your hill indicators. These are really important. These let you know if you're going to be going uphill, flat, or downhill, because it's really hard to see these things. You can't really tell the incline of a hill when you're just looking at it. You read it left to right, so a sloping up line means you're going to go uphill, flat is flat, and then a sloping down from left to right is downhill. The colors can also help you, yellow for uphill, red for downhill. We're going to leave that there. Now, you also get this quick guide for the shunter, which you should read to learn how to start. We don't need to carry that around. Now the important things you do need, of course, is your map, which we'll go over later, so stick that in your inventory. The station schematic maps, which is probably the most important thing in the game besides the world map. These show you where to go when you're pulling into a station, what tracks. We'll go over that as well. And then, of course, the remote switcher, which lets you switch tracks remotely. You can clear vehicles if you want, and this also lets you re-rail vehicles that may have derailed so that you can complete the job. This isn't exactly the best way to go about things at the beginning of your game because re-railing does cost money every time you do it. So normally you'll use the switch. I like to leave it on there, stick it in your menu. I'm going to sit back down. The tutorial mentions it, but it's worth going over again. That if you go into your menu, you can get your wallet, your world map, the station schematic, and the comms radio from here. So if you misplace any of those things, just click on one of those and it'll spawn you a fresh copy right into your hand. So don't worry about accidentally leaving stuff anywhere. Also, anything you leave around like this stuff will appear at any of the lost and founds, which are next to the station offices. So we've just finished the tutorial and we're looking on what to do next. If we take a look at our world map, you can see the blue triangle right here is us. The yellow is our locomotive. You can actually see some locomotives here at the steel mill which have spawned. So if you need a new one, we can go down there. We're already facing towards the steel mill, so that's sort of the obvious place to go to try and find our first job. So let's do that. But the very, very first thing you should do, and the tutorial doesn't mention this, is uncouple from this car that you coupled to in the tutorial. You don't need it, there's nothing to do with it, and it could potentially just get in your way when you're doing jobs. And of course, uncoupling, just do the reverse of coupling. There we go. Let's fire up and get going to the steel mill. Now I'm going to go over the dashboard buttons here real quick just because I do see a lot of questions of this on the Steam forum. The fan, you can turn it on and off, but it does not have an in-game function at this time. Same with the headlights. You can turn them on, turn them off. They are not yet implemented, but the cab light is very important and helpful. Click that one on and your gauges get lit up, which is very nice. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's pull out to the steel mill. We check our switch. We want to go right to go straight ahead. Put the reverser in forward. Brakes off. And here we go. And we can get going a little faster than this. At the beginning of the game, and for this tutorial, we're just going to take things nice and slow. I'm going to try and explain everything that I'm doing so that we can see what's going on. There's no need to rush, derail our train right off the bat. Although you can see the speed limit of 80 here, we're in no danger of that. So here under the 5 is this Y symbol, which means that we're approaching a junction. And usually you want to slow down for these. I find junctions usually have a speed limit of around 30 kilometers, which would be safe. Yeah, here we go. So if we're going to the left on this junction, 30 kilometers, to the right, 50. And here we're going to go straight ahead. We're just going to go straight into the steel mill. As this is a new game, the switches will already be set to just take us straight up through track into the steel mill. So we'll just do that, park up next to the office, and go see what jobs are available. One thing I still forget a lot, but the tutorial does mention, once you get up to speed on a certain notch, if the ground is level, your train will just coast. So it's always best to just pull off the power, see how we're maintaining speed here. But there's the office. We want to go ahead and stop our train using the independent brake, which applies just the locomotive. All right. I'm going to go ahead and leave this thing on because there's no reason not to at this point. Let's take a look at the jobs. All right, stand back up here. So the first thing I like to do when I get to a job is, of course, just sort the table by jobs that we can possibly take. And remember, at the beginning of the game, we only have the freight haul license, which means that these green freight haul jobs are the only ones that we'll even be able to take at this time. So the first thing to do when you pull up a job is look down at the license requirements. So we have the freight haul license, but this one also requires the long 2 license because it's a long train, which we don't have. So bye. This one we could do. So let's set that aside. This other one we could also do. Set that aside. And this one also requires the long 2. So goodbye. The logistical haul jobs and shunting jobs we can't do right now as we don't have the correct license. So let's take a look at the 2 jobs that we can do. It looks like they're both going to the goods factory in town, so there's not much choice there. So it looks like what we're doing is we've got a choice between a 3-car job of 175 tons for $7,800, and then we've also got a 4-car job going to the goods factory. It weighs 232 tons, but that one pays $9,725. So this would be the one to go with right now, because we can only take one of these jobs because we don't have the concurrent jobs license yet. The shunter is rated to haul up to 400 tons, so both of these jobs are well within our weight limit, so either of these would be good to take. So obviously I'm going to pick the one that pays more. So if we look at the map that's on the wall here, we see the steel mill and then the goods factory up this direction. So if we look at our map here, we can see based on our arrows that we're actually facing to the southwest, and we'll actually need to be going to the northeast when we pull out. So we're going to need to find a way to turn around our locomotive before we get going, which I will demonstrate shortly. But let's go back to the job. The last thing to look at the job, and I mean when you're starting out, definitely the last thing, is the time bonus. Here it says 31 minutes. All that means is that if we can complete the job in under 31 minutes from the time we insert it into the job validator, we will get an extra 50% bonus on top of our $9,725. That is just a bonus. All that means you can take as long as you want to do the job. You will still get $9,725 for this job. And I definitely recommend when you're first starting out, just take things slow. Do not worry about the time bonus. Worrying about the time bonus leads to mistakes, especially when you're figuring things out. And then the game can get pretty frustrating pretty quickly. If your cars are derailing, you're smashing into things to couple, just take it slow. It's good. All right, so we insert this in here. Out pops the job book. There we go. And now this tells us some more key information that we need. Let's go outside. Flip it open, you just get a reprint of the job offer. The next one is your step 1. It tells us to couple in the steel mill at station B10. That's an O, not a 0. And now will be as good a time as any to start looking at the station schematic maps book. So, look how thick this thing is. This one has maps for every yard in every station in the game. So the first page, so we're at the steel mill. You can see right here. The first page you get is going to be an overview of the entire station yard. You can see here that we're in A overview, we have some sidings, an inbound track, and the loading track is on 7. And we also have a sub-yard B we can flip over and see B right here. Now the trickiest thing about the schematic maps is that on the vast majority of the maps, north is not going to be the top of the page. You have to look at the directions that you're going to be coming into the yard from. So we can see, comparing this to our world map, that we came into this yard from the northeast. So if we orient ourselves that direction, you can see now we're pointed from the northeast to the southwest, just like we came in on our locomotive. Look back at the map. Here we're coming from the northeast, going to the southwest. We are now completely oriented with the track map, which means, going back to our job, we are looking for track B10. We can look here, we're in yard B. 10 is going to be the farthest left track. So if we slide over this way, we can see that is the case. Here's B3I. B20 and B10 right here. So I'm going to jump forward here. So these are our cars. We can go ahead and verify those real quick. Each stack says what they have. So we're looking for 4 cars bracketed by CFF 385 and CFF 976. So here's 976. Let's hop over to the first car, 385. We're good to go. Pop that away. Now the last thing we need to do, as I said, is we actually want to be headed back out this way to the northwest to get up to the goods factory. So we want our locomotive to face the other direction. Oops, sometimes that happens. There we go. As each yard, not each yard, but most yards now include a turntable for turning your locomotive around, and you can see on the map in the overview that's what this little circle means, is a turntable. So we're going to want to back up to that. Pop into reverse, brakes off. You can see on our schematic map we're going to be coming in from the northeast, so we need to go to the first junction, and it's going to be a left, a left, a left, and a left the whole way in. And we can see the branch coming in here. Let's start slowing down. There's the flag. Stop ourselves. And I like to go ahead and set my reverser. Alright, once again, when you're first starting out, let's take things slow. So we know we're here. We want this one to go left. So there we go. Let's just pop up ahead a little bit. Here's our next one here. We also want it to go left because going right would take us into the 7L siding, which is the loading area. That's what the L stands for. I'll go over those in a little bit. All right, let's pop up to the next one. We're now here. We want to go left again. We're good to go. And left again. Good to go. And the last one, we want to go left. It's pointing right, which would actually take us into the locomotive maintenance bay, which is what's indicated by the blue wrench icon there. So we're going to change that one to be going left. Now we're all set up. The last thing to do, since we're already here, is let's go ahead and align the turntable with the track so we don't have to stop and get out and then move again. This is a little finicky. There we go. And as you can see, we've got 2 more shunters that have spawned in here. And one of the things the game doesn't explain very well is that you are a contractor here. You don't own any of the locomotives. All the locomotives are owned by whatever company runs all the shipping in Derail Valley. So when you get a license to run a locomotive like we have for the DE2, that means we're allowed to use any of the DE2s on the map. We are also, as a contractor, responsible for all fuel and maintenance fees that we use. So you can't just run one dry, hop into another one, run it dry, hop into another one, and then never pay. Your fees will stack up, but it actually is a good way to do things in the beginning, as you will only have to pay a tiny amount of your total fees, which I'll explain later after we do our first job. All right, we're set up to get onto the turntable. I'm going to hop us back down the line to our train. Oops. All right, and back in. Reverser forward. Brake off. And let's roll. For me personally, I like to go about 20 kilometers an hour through the yard. What that lets me do is it usually gives me plenty of time to sit here with the remote, and I can usually catch a switch that I need to change in plenty of time without having to stop or back up or anything like that. Like I said, I definitely recommend for a while until you learn the yards and the schematics, just take it slow, hop out of your train, walk the track, switch the switches manually. It's a good learning. That's how I learn most of the yards. Not like I'm an expert or anything, but I feel like I've now got a pretty good handle on how these things work. All right, we're approaching the turntable, so we're going to start to slow down because we definitely don't want to overshoot the turntable. There's nothing to stop you from just running out the end, derailing your train. We definitely don't want to do that on our very first job. All right, here we go. Set our brakes, hop out. Stand up so I can see the turntable. We just want to spin it around 180 degrees. And the further you push, the faster it goes. So we can bring it down slow. There we go. So now what we're going to want to do, we're still facing forward. We're going to go past that very first junction we started with again. And looking at our map, we're going to pull back out to here, switch our switches, and reverse back into B yard and pick up our train cars on B10. And let's just coast again. Just while we're waiting, I can go over the gauges real quick. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. Here's your speedometer in kilometers per hour. Your sand. This is the amount of sand you have on the train, which helps you get going up hills so that the wheels don't slip. We might go over that a little later. Here's your fuel gauge and your oil. These are both consumables that'll deplete that you'll need to pay to have replaced at some point. The last ones up here are your brake pipe and your brake reservoir. The brake pipe is very important. I will go over how the brakes work when I demonstrate what to do about runaway cars. Because sometimes you can park them without brakes, and that makes coupling to them a gigantic pain, because every time you bump it, it'll just roll away from you. And this is something that took me a while to figure out, but once you understand how the brakes work, it won't be a problem. Alright, once again, let's hop out and we'll walk the track and set our switches manually. Look at our schematic. We're here. Actually, we're here. We want to be going to the right. So there we go. Now we know that once we pass this point, we're into the B yard schematic. We'll flip there. Now we want to go, remember we're facing southwest, so we can just read it like we're facing it. So we want the first switch to go left. Switch hands here. It's easier for me to use my right hand. So we want this one going left. We also want this one to go left. Oops, it was already left. There we go. And we can already see the next one is left, and the one after that is left. So we're going all the way to the left to back into B10. All right, let's go back to the train, start reversing. So at this point you may have noticed that we can actually couple cars to both the back and the front of the shunter. So why do we need to turn around if we can just drive backwards the whole way to the goods factory? And the answer is because of your heat gauge, the engine temperature gauge right here. The shunter has a radiator on the front, which I'll show in a minute. I don't feel like jumping off the moving train. If you're not facing forward when you're moving, the engine won't cool properly and your engine temperature will just shoot up. If you ever hit the red, your engine will shut itself down, and that's a whole bunch of lost time. It can be very difficult to get yourself going again depending on if you're on a hill or not. So when you're doing a haul job between stations, you definitely want the front of the shunter to be facing the direction of travel. Also, all your controls are facing forward. It just makes things easier. So, we're getting close to these cars. Let's slow down. Once again, take things slow. Pop it down to about a little less than 10 as we get closer. And of course, the more you play, the more you'll be able to judge how quickly you need to slow down when approaching cars. The shunter has very good brakes when it's by itself. You can see we've got no throttle, we're just coasting. I'm going to drop us down to about 4 or 5. Oops, too much. That's so easy to do. Alright. Break off. There we go. I like to be going about 5 or less. When we hit, we'll just chunk into it nicely. There we go. Set the brake. Alright, we're good to go there. Let's go couple our cars. Duck under there. And open the brake valves. Get the pressure flowing all down the train. And we're about ready to head out here. So, let's look up our job. We've done this, we've coupled at B10. Next page is to haul the train to the goods factory. So, let's pull out our map. We're facing the right direction. We know we need to get to the goods factory. So if we just take a quick look at the map here, one of the things the map does not mention, it's got all these colored circles down here that tell you what services the station offers. Now, the yellow circle is the actual station location. Otherwise, that can be confusing. You can see most, the Forest South is the only one, so it's right on the track. The steel mill station is right on the track. But up here at the machine factory, the yellow circle is on this track, and the blue circle is on this track. So you need to know that the yellow circle indicates the station location, which means it's on this track. Now that we're ready to go, the next thing I like to do is go ahead and just pop my map up on the dash so I can have it ready at any given time. Brake off, reverser forward. And why I'm waiting is for that brake pressure. Now that we're connected to the whole train, we have to wait for the brake pressure to rise all the way up before we can start moving. And we're good to go. So just give it a couple notches of power. If you throw in full throttle, you'll just get crazy wheel slip, and that's not what you want. The other thing you can do is pop out your remote, stick it on the dash so it's ready to go, because we're going to need it as we go, because we don't want to be stopping the train now at every junction to jump out and get switches. And even though it's not shown on the map here, one thing I do know is that this is this tutorial shed right where the little ball on my controller is pointing. And we came out of there, which means the switch is going to be pointing back into it. So we are definitely going to need to change the switch to point to the left to continue on the track here. We'll do that when we get closer. Let's get a little bit more speed. Check on our cars. Looks like we're doing good. Everybody's there. I'm going to go slow through this section while we approach that first junction just to make sure we get it. Here we go. Now I like to start scanning it. Oh, there's the blip and the arrow. There we go. Changed it to the left. Now we're good to go. Let's just cruise through here at a moderate speed. It does say that we can go 80 if we're going to the left here, but why not be safe? Here we go. there was a downhill marker, so we're gonna start picking up speed even without any throttle. There we can go. We can see it climbing. We're almost up to 40. If you look at the map, we should be good to go for quite a while when we're going to want to make a right turn to head towards the goods factory. So right now we just need to keep an eye on our speed, make sure that we don't get over any of the speed limits here. We're looking at 70, we're approaching 60. I'm still a pretty cautious person, so I like to maintain about 10 under the speed limit with the shunter. And for now, we're going to want to start using the train brake, because this one, yeah, there we go, a little too much, is going to actually cause the brakes to engage on all of our train cars, not just the locomotive. And now most of our weight is back behind us, so we're definitely going to want to be using the train brake to slow ourselves. Otherwise it'll take a long time. Looks like we're going pretty flat here. Let's put a couple notches in, give it some more. Now the other thing to keep in mind is while you always want to be going under the speed limit when it's low, in the shunter especially, don't worry about hitting the high speed limit. Just, this thing has trouble keeping up the speed. You will definitely burn tons of fuel, and honestly I don't think you get there all that much faster. Most of your time is going to be picking up, dropping off, moving cars around. Definitely keep an eye on. You can see here we're in a pretty high notch of throttle. You can see our speed, or I'm sorry, our engine temperature visibly climbing here. If we keep this up for too long, it'll get into the yellow, and then it'll definitely get into the red and shut us down. So we just need to keep an eye on that. The other thing you can do is keep an eye on your route. You see where we're at. It looks like we're coming up on a bend here. Be prepared to possibly brake if you need to. Corners have lower speeds than going straight. Makes sense. So that's something you can do. I'm going to go ahead and lift off the throttle. We're going 65. Yep, here we go. Here's a speed limit of 60. So gently put in some brake. Don't slam it on there. That can cause your cars to derail. You do have some time. There we go. Now we're going 60. Pull off the brake. And we'll just start coasting. Keep an eye on the speed limits. So it looks like it goes back up to 80. Should be alright. Looks good so far. If anybody sees this and keeps wondering why I'm looking off to my left, I do have my chat window pinned here in VR, and it doesn't look like anybody's here. I don't see any chat, but I was having a lot of trouble getting it to work earlier. So if there are people in chat and I'm just not seeing it, I apologize. I'm going to keep going with this, and then I'll try and answer any questions back on the Steam forums afterwards. Do happen to be watching and haven't typed anything in chat, I'd appreciate it if you would real quick, just so I could see if it's working or not. Alright, oop, 50 coming up on that junction. So let's slow down. Remember, we need to be going right into the goods factory. We're going left. There we go. We should be good. Now it wants us to be going 40. Let's slow down quite a bit here. That one caught me out because I was chatting. Usually I like to be going about 30 over a junction like that. I think we should be okay. Let's check our cars. Looks good. And another thing to keep in mind is you do not have to worry about the direction that junctions you're going backwards on are pointed. If it's pointed the opposite direction, when you pass it, it'll just automatically flip to the direction that it wants to travel down. But you also need to keep that in mind for when you're coming back out, because that junction may have switched from where it was originally. So it looks like we're going to be climbing. I let us drop too much speed, so we're going to have to crank it up here to get up this hill. Let's see if we can get some wheel slip. Yep, there we go. So here's our wheel slip light. Now if we hit some sand, that'll dump some sand on the track, give us some more grip for our wheels. Now you don't want to do that too much. That's just to get yourself a little bit more up to speed. So I'm going to take the sand off, and it looks like we're good. Now usually with the shunter, sometimes with hills, you're just going to bleed a lot of speed and there's nothing you can do about it unless you want to just use tons and tons of sand, which later in the game you'll have to pay to replenish. Alright, looks like we're coming up here, and normally I would pull out the station schematics and figure out where I want to go, and so that I can be ready with my switcher at this point. But since we're just starting out, we're going to take it slow. I'm actually going to stop outside of the yard. We'll pull out our map and figure out where we need to go, and manually walk the yard. You can see here in both the oil well and the goods factory, new locomotives have spawned in. We don't know what they are yet. It could be any of the three types: the shunter, the big diesel, or the steam train. So sometimes you might get a spawn where you wouldn't actually have a locomotive that you can use spawn in, but that's been pretty rare in my experience. Nope, still not seeing any chat, so either it's not working or nobody's watching my channel, which are both very distinct possibilities. Alright, here's our first yard junction. I'm going to go ahead and put my map away because I know that we're coming up here. So I'm just going to stop us in the tunnel here. I think we're still on an uphill. So, engage the train and the independent. Pop that away because we don't need it right now. Let's see what we need to do. So, here we are at the goods factory in town. Let's open our job book. Here we are. Next page. We need to uncouple the following cars at this track D6I. Now it's all four of our cars. We should be able to just drop these off, and that'll be it for the job. So we need our station schematic map, and now we need to find the goods factory, so we can look down here. These all have abbreviations. I want to look for GF, goods factory. So let's flip through here. There it is. Went a little too fast. Oops. Overview. So we have to figure out where we're coming in. Now thankfully, or easily, the goods factory only has one entrance, which means that we are facing this direction right here. And here is B yard right in front of us. So I forgot already where we need to go. D6I. So let's look here. D is all the way around this way. So there's two ways we could get into this. We could pull forward, loop around, and head it in, drop off our cars, and then back out through the unmarked through track. But probably the better thing to do would be to pull forward, zigzag around, pull back, and then back in so that we're facing the direction we need to go. If we decide to pick up another job, we'll either be backing into cars here or coming around and backing into cars here to pull back out to the southwest. So now we know that we need B. Here's the transfer yard. Let's go find D. Actually, let's walk the track the whole way, so we'll do this properly. So we're coming in this way. That happens. There we go. So we want to go through B, so we're going to go to the right. Go to the right again. This will take us through B. Here's B. And as we come out of B, we want to go to the right and bypass C. That's C up ahead. It's the passenger platform. Here we go. Switch that to the right. Now let's jump along our track here. And all of these are reverse junctions, so we don't have to worry about them just yet. And then this one, they're all reversed. However, since we're here, we know we're at this point, and so if we go straight ahead, this will be the D yard. We can start changing our switches for D so that when we get past, the only switch we need to change is that one over there. So let's go find D. There it is. And we know we're coming in from the only direction. So D6I, confirm that, is going to be to the right. So we want this one to go to the right. Oh, sorry. My mistake. We're still in front of this siding with more locomotives on it. So we want to go left, bypass that. This is the one. I keep missing things today. All right, here we go. This is our first one in D. So we want to go to the right. Good. Now we're up to here. Let's go right again. We will change that track. There we go. And then we want to go right again. There we go. Now we're up to here. And we want to go left this time. And we can see the sign B6I just down there. Just to the left. Now we should be all set up to come in. So let's just zip back around. There we go. Still going forward. Let's disengage our brakes. Wait for that brake pipe pressure to come back up above 3. And then we'll get going. There it is. Put in just a couple notches. See if we start rolling. We might still be on a bit of an incline, so we'll put in another notch as long as we don't get wheel slip. Horn. Let people know we're coming into the yard. This game doesn't seem to have any specific yard limits. I like to go about 20. Seems reasonable. Oh, perfect. A lone car. We can kick around. I can demonstrate the brakes. and you do coast quite well, but when you go over a lot of switches, it does seem to slow you down a bit, so just keep an eye on your speed. If you see it crawling down, just kick it back up a little bit. Check our cars, everything looks good. While we're waiting, I'll just talk about the reason that you only get the freight haul job license when you first start the game, I believe, is because they're the most simple of the jobs in terms of when you pick up the cars, they will always be the only ones on that outbound track, and when you drop off your cars, you should have a clear inbound track to put them to. Alright, we're just going to watch our last car get past the junction switch. That looks good. We can go ahead and, oops, throw on the brake. I waited a little too long, but that's alright. And put the independent brake back on as well. Yep, could have stopped much sooner, but flip that and we should be good to go. We set up our switches beforehand. We should be able to back directly into D6I, drop off our load, and then turn in our job and get paid. Change the reverser, brakes off, wait for that pressure to climb. Start backing up slowly, let our cars compress a little bit so they don't slam together. That looks good. Another notch. Looks about good. Let's coast. There we go. We can see our cars backing up. Should be getting onto the right track. Looks good. And as you can see, there's nothing behind us. We don't have to worry about running into any parked cars. So here comes the sign. Let's stop. Alright, there we go. There's the sign. We're parked on the track. If we look at the job book, it says uncouple the following cars. You don't actually have to uncouple, but we'll do it anyway. Close. Unhook. Yep, I always do that still. It goes on the small hook, not the big hook. There we go. Alright, well, if we look at our job, turn into a job validator. Now another thing to go over real quick, because it's as good a time as any, is we've never been to this station before, we don't know where the station office is. Thankfully, our schematic map shows us. If we look back at the overview, you can see this orange dot here with the house icon is the station. The blue icon is the store. So we can see that the station here is right next to the B siding where we came in. Each individual yard one also has an arrow. So we are in D. So if we face the direction of coming in, you can see the station office should be off to our right here. So let's head over there. I'm gonna just hop us through. All right, so here's the B yard that we passed through, and we can see here, there's the station office. Let's go turn in our job and see how we did. Pop it into the validator, and job complete. We took 41 minutes out of the 31. That's not too bad considering how slow we took things. Don't need that anymore. Don't forget to get your money. There's our $9,725. Pull up our wallet and slap that in there. I love that. All right, there we go. Now we have $11,000. Not bad for 40 minutes worth of work, going very, very slow. So now we can figure out what sort of next job we want to take. So here's where we can start thinking about chaining jobs. Now what I'm going to do is let's go over how the career manager works, because I want to do some shunting. So we need to go to licenses, and we need to buy the shunting license. Only costs $1,000, and that's definitely, in my opinion, the thing to do next. So let's get that. But it's going to tell us we have fees, and we need to clear our fees. So let's get back out, go to the fees, and see what we have. Look at that. So we made $9,000 on our job, but it cost us about $4,000 to drive it up here. It's still going because we're still burning fuel. But at the beginning of the game, you have a copay of only $100. What that means is that no matter how high your fees are, you will only have to pay $100 to clear those fees. So let's do that. Take our wallet, stick it in there, confirm. There we go. So, as you can see in the beginning of the game, the best thing to do would be to basically run your locomotive all the way down to empty, and then you'll get the best value for your money when you clear your fees. This is, I believe, to introduce a sense of progression into the game, where eventually your copay will be high enough where it'll actually make sense to refuel the vehicle yourself, as it costs half as much to refuel it manually as it would to clear it through the career manager. But right now, we should be good to get our shunting license. Oops, I gotta confirm that first. There we go, getting ahead of myself. Getting excited to do some shunting. There we go. So, here's our shunting license. Now we can do shunting jobs. Don't need to carry that around, so just chuck it. That'll appear in any lost and founds. All right, so once again, let's go back to the table and sort our jobs. So, logistical haul, can't do. Nope. Shunting, there's one. Here's another shunting. Freight haul. Freight haul, that's good. These are all ones we can do. Here's one that we can't do because it requires the Hazmat 2 license and the Long 1 license, so toss that. Here's another shunting job we can do, and a logistical haul. So I want to do some shunting. I'm going to show you guys how to do that, why I think it's a great way to learn your way around the yards and the trains, and also how you can use it to chain jobs together. So, as we look through these, every shunting job has, as you can see, two destinations, just like the freight haul jobs. Whereas with the freight haul, you can see where we're at now as the goods factory and where the job will go to, the harbor or the food factory. The shunting jobs also have two destinations listed, but the shunting that you'll do for the job will always take place in the yard that you're currently in. The reason they have both destinations is because it actually shows you where the next job will go to in the case of one like this, or in the case of the one that we just did, where the goods came from. And those indicate two things. The first thing, in the case of one where you see where you are over a destination, what that means is you're going to have to pick up empty cars and load cars for departure. And what that means is once you've loaded the cars, a new job will spawn that will be a freight haul job going from the goods factory to the machine factory. So if you wanted to haul a job to the machine factory, you could take this job, shunt the cars together, load it up, and then immediately come back here, pick up that freight haul job, and then head straight out for the machine factory. It's a pretty good way to chain jobs together because your locomotive will already even be attached to the cars that you need to take. But I'm going to do this one here, because you can see here, this one came from the steel mill, which is actually the one we just did. So when we turned in our freight haul job, it spawned this shunting job. So since this came from somewhere, what it means is that we will get to unload it, and then we'll store the empties. And you can see here, this is something new they added, which is really nice. One drop off. That means all the cars, the empty cars, are going to be dropped off at the same siding. Whereas you can see here, this one is a load job, and it's got two pickups, which means out of these three cars, several of them will be in different tracks. So you'll have to grab cars from two different sidings, put the train together, and then load it up. But let's go ahead and take this shunting job. So it only takes, we only get 12 minutes to do this one for the time bonus. But like I said, let's take things nice and slow. Don't worry about that right now. We're still going to get paid $4,500 for this. And I promise it won't take all that long. Once you've done a couple of these, you'll be doing these in no time, throwing cars around the yard and getting that bonus most of the time. All right, here we go. So we can see here, there's the job. Now we go back. We need a couple of these cars at D6I. What do you know? That's right where we dropped off. So let's just head straight back to where we were. There's our train right where we left it. If you'll notice, the engine is off. That's because when you clear your fees at the career manager, it'll automatically shut down any active locomotives so that they're not continuing to create fees in case you want to stop using that one. It's quite nice. All right, so let's couple. Hop back in. We need to fire back up. Okay, before I did that, what we should do is go back to our job. We can see we coupled. Now we need to go unload at B1L. So if we remember, going back to our station diagrams, B1, B is where we first came in, and 1 is our farthest track to the right when we're facing the yard from the entrance. Now, what I like to do on shunting is then we'll also take a look at where they need to go next. So we're going to park the cars after they're unloaded in B to S. So we can see that we're basically going to pull in here, unload the cars, and then back out and pull in here, or go forward and pull in here. So seeing that, and a nice thing to do here, because of the way shunting works, what you're going to want to do is take a look at that track that they are going to go to and see if it's already occupied. Because when you're doing shunting jobs, you may have to move cars around the track to get space. All right, here we go. So we can see on B2S, well, there's one car already on the track, which is going to change our tactic here, because if we pulled in here and unloaded and then backed out and then pulled in here, we would trap our locomotive between the cars we're dropping off and the car already on the track. This is a luckily nice and easy job. We're going to unload here, and we're just going to pull straight through and then back our cars into the track, park them right up next to this thing. And that's actually perfect, because then I will push this car around and demonstrate really quickly how the brake system works for the trains and the cars. All right, let's go back once again, since we're still in the beginning, kind of working things out slowly. We can look at our schematic and go back, and probably the easiest thing to do is going to be just to pull straight ahead and around. So let's go ahead and walk the track and make sure all our switches are set to take us there. Now on C, we actually don't have to worry about too much at this time, because that is the, let's hop this wall, there we go, is the passenger station, which is not yet implemented in the game. So no matter which of these tracks we go through, we won't run into anything. However, we do want to make sure that we're coming on this side, because if you notice, we need to head to the left to get to B1L, and that means we're going to want to make sure we're sticking to the left side here. So let's go change that. So this one's going to the left, we're good. This one's going to the right, doesn't matter, which means we're going to go this way. And then the last one we want to check is this one, to head us to the left to go to B1L, which is our loading zone. And since I neglected it before, I'm going to go over what the letters mean. They did add a page to it in the Train Basics guide right after the signaling, which is nice, but I still do see a lot of questions on this. L will always be your loading and unloading track. S stands for siding, or I always thought of them as storage, which means it's where you're either going to drop off or pick up empty cars after you've either unloaded, or you'll pick up empty cars to take to loading. That's another S track. Now you notice we pulled into D6I. The I stands for input or inbound. So when you're coming in from a freight haul job, you will always end in an I track. O stands for outbound or output, which is where, let's see if there's one over here. Yep, D2O. You can see there's cars on here, which means that if we were to pick up the freight haul job associated with this, you would pick up the cars from this outbound track and get going. So you can see, based on how things are numbered, you can sort of pre-plan what jobs you want to look for and take based on the layout of the yard. And when you're coming in with a freight haul job or something of that nature, you know you're going to be heading into an inbound track, and so forth. Hopefully that makes sense. I tried to explain that on the Steam forums a couple days ago and just felt like I rambled for a while. Alright, we've got a ways to go around, so get it up to about 25. We should be good. And you can also grab your schematic, plop it on the dash, and we know we're coming around that way. Now you do have to be careful in VR, as the items in the game do have physical properties. You can actually push. Don't want to do that. Wow. You can actually push around your levers and such with the items. So if you see me, whenever I pull out my map backing off, this thing's pretty big, so I don't accidentally whack my throttle or the brake just like that. So just another VR thing to keep in mind. I did neglect to mention when we were pulling into the last track, you do see the signs that indicate where the siding is. Now you do not need to put your cars in between the signs. They just need to be in between the junctions of that track. I see that come up quite a bit because people will see a track when they're doing shunting with a whole bunch of empty cars already on it, and they'll think that there's no room for their cars because all of the space between the signs is already taken up. That doesn't matter. As long as your cars fit between the junctions on that siding, you'll be good to go. All right, almost there. Start slowing down. And then another thing to keep in mind with the train brake, especially when you're using it while on a haul, is that it takes a while when you release it for the pressure to build back up. So there's a delay between when you release your brake and when the train will stop slowing. So since we're going forward, it doesn't matter that we're pulling up. Let's go ahead and just stop completely. Put the brake on. Hop out. Now, since we're here, it just happened to be at the goods factory. We'll talk about this right now. The loading machine usually is right next to the track that is the L track. So you would look along this track for the little loading machine to unload your stuff. However, on the goods factory, for whatever reason, the loading machine is right next to the station office on the opposite side of the tracks. Don't know why they did that on this one. I haven't yet seen another station that's like this. I'm not entirely sure, but here we go. Train in range to unload. Unload. There we go. Yep, a bunch of empties. All right, so going back to our job, we've unloaded. Now we're going to uncouple at B2S. We've already determined that that's just the next track over. So we're just going to want to pull up past this junction here and then go to the left. However, we can't change our switch now. I'll show this. If we change our switch, we're going that way, but if we drive over it, coming from the other track, it'll switch back to the direction that we just came from. And we can watch that happen here real quick. Got that brake pressure climbing. There we go. And that's good. And we should see that switch right now, just like that. So once we hit the track, it switches back to where we came from. So just need to keep that in mind when setting your switches for on occasions like this. Now, our train should be much lighter with just empty flat cars. Let's just use the independent brake. See, we're actually stopping pretty good here. And then we won't have to wait as long for the pressure to build in the brake pipe. When we go back, I don't think I pulled up quite far enough. Nope. See, we're still on the switch. That's unfortunate. But since we're just using the independent brake, we shouldn't have to wait very long. That should be good. There we are, pointed to the left. Alright, brake off, reverser into reverse, and a couple notches. Now we are going to want to watch. We're probably going to bump into that car that's already on the track. So if that happens, when we get kind of close, I like to watch the back, look at my brake handle, try and keep an eye on the cars, start slowing down. There we go. We'll just go nice and slow, a little slower. There we go. Let's go ahead and stop there. And I'm going to go ahead and put the train brake on because after we turn in this job, I'm going to talk about the brakes a little bit. Now, you can see here we're not between the signs, but we are between the junctions. So let's see if that counts. I've not usually tested this, so let's take a look. We may need to back up just a little bit. Yep, we're good to go. And look at that, even with all that running around. Sorry, I gotta stop the beeping. Chunk, there we go. So even with all that running around, explaining things slowly, we only took 2 more minutes than the bonus time. So, no problem. Trust me. Do a couple shunting jobs and you won't have any trouble getting those bonuses. It's a great way to build up a pretty decent bankroll because once you start taking on more licenses, like the long train ones, the concurrent job licenses, that copay will start climbing and you'll have to pay more and more of the share of your fees and any damages. So while we're here, I'm going to couple to this car so we can demonstrate how the brake system works. Need to tighten that up. And then open the valves, because right now we have the train brake on, which means there's pressure all the way through the brake pipe, all the way down the train. So what I'm going to do is actually take the train brake off. That's actually going to take all the pressure out of the brake pipe. So, and this caught me out the first time just because I've never used a system like this. I don't know anything about trains in real life and how they work. And so essentially what's going on is that the brakes need pressure to hold the brakes off. So what happens is when the pressure decreases, the brake pads, or however they work, clamp down. And I imagine that is a pretty good fail-safe. If you lose any sort of pressure, the brakes will automatically engage and stop your cars from running away. It makes sense. It works basically the exact opposite of how your car brake does, where the more pressure you put down on the pedal, the more pressure is applied to the brake pads. On this, it's the opposite. The more pressure is put into the system to push the brakes off and let you move. So now all the pressure is in the brake pipe, holding the brakes open. So now what happens, I should have done this first, is if we close this brake valve, and the other one should already be closed, I don't know why I'm checking, it's going to hold the pressure in the system, which means that there's no brakes on this car as of right now. And I'll do the same here, so there's going to be no brakes. So let's unhook that. We'll unhook here. And then now, hopefully, if I've done this right, if we just kick this a little bit, there we go. There, you can see this car on the end is rolling away because it has no brakes at all. This happened to me once when I was changing around a bunch of cars when shunting, and every time I tried to bump into couple, it would push away. I ended up having to run along with it, which of course in real life would just be massively dangerous. But all you need to do if this is happening to you, run up to the car, click the brake valve. If I can get on it, there we go. That'll release all the pressure from the system through the pipe and engage the brakes, and it'll stop a runaway car. So hopefully that made sense. That one really was one of my moments of frustration in this game when I did not think about and understand how the brakes worked. But that's a real simple solution. That also means that if you leave the train brake off when you're parking cars, like we've done here, we want to uncouple from this, but we definitely want the brake on. If you've forgotten, what you can do is we'll close the brake valve to the train, leave this one open, and just uncouple the middle. You can hear all of the pressure escaping the hose. Now the brakes are set. We can finish uncoupling. And there we go. So, the last thing I think I want to demonstrate is what to do in the beginning of the game if you derail your train, have a catastrophic derailing. What do you do next? Because keep in mind that the rerail option on the game costs money every time to rerail a train. So if you're just starting off, you only have 2,000, maybe you paid 1,000 for the shunter license, you're down a bit, you might not have enough money to rerail the cars to finish the job as is. So this might take a while, but let's see what I can do here. So we're going to need to find a job. I'm going to take a freight haul job because that should be pretty easy to get going. Oh, and you can see here, since we unloaded that, it generated a new logistical haul job. What these are is basically a combination of shunting and hauling. So these cars, you're basically going to take these empty cars to the city southwest. And it looks like you would basically just recouple to those cars we just dropped off. A lot of times you'll have to assemble a train of cars and then take them somewhere. And then when you get to your destination, you may have to drop them off into different sidings, just like if you're doing shunting. So they're pretty good, especially if you get the concurrent jobs and you can find several going to the same place. That's where they really pay off. Same with freight haul, except that you do have to watch your weights then. So, let's see, these ones are empty. This will be fun to... Yeah, let's take this one. So this one's going up to the food factory, but it's not going to get there. Alright, let's take this job, see where we need to get these from. D20. So we can just sort of figure this one out as we go. So let's go forward. And coupled, right? Yep, there we go. Definitely did. Just making sure. Alright, off the brake. Here's our junction. And we're just gonna pull up the radio. Oops, I'm on rerail still. There we go. And we're just gonna wanna back all the way around, just like before, so back up. What I say it was D20, so let's get out our map, take a look at D. Alright, so we're gonna be wanting to go left, left, right. So let's do that with the switch this time. Yeah, we can go a little faster since we're just... There we go. Yeah, so my first ever haul with the steam job ever, the steam train, the first job I ever did with the steam train ever, I took from Harbor in Town over to City Southwest, and that, look at this route, it is just treacherous. I made it most of the way. It was a heavy train too, about 800 tons. I made it to about here and totally derailed. It was a nightmare, and that was a complete lost job. Oh, and then I stupidly rerailed the tender backwards, so I couldn't reconnect. Just had to ditch that one altogether. That set me back quite a bit. The fees on the career manager said it was over $200,000 worth of damage. At the time, I think I had like a $20,000 or $30,000 copay, which I had just bought the steam license, so it ended up being most of my money just to clear that, so I could even take another job. But a few quick shunting jobs around the City Southwest, and I was back on my feet, no problem. All right, let's slow down. We can start backing ourselves into this yard without having to get out. So remember, we're going, oops, I'm on the job. D20, which we know is on the left. So we've got that one going to the right. So we want left, sorry, and then right. So you can get it set up while you're going, no problem. I love the atmosphere in this game, honestly. Standing here, everything's squeaking and shaking, got the engine idling. It's amazing, honestly. Just they really, Alt Future really got the immersion factor perfect in this game. I've always loved to watch trains ever since I was a kid, but I played a couple train simulators. Never have gotten real serious into it, but this is amazing, and I cannot wait to see where we go from here. Their roadmap looks great. All right, let's slow down to 5. There we go. Yep, could have waited a little, but this should chunk us in there nicely. Clunk, brakes on. And then here's why setting the train brake when you're attaching is recommended, is because now when we connect the brake hoses, when we couple the cars, it'll keep the brake pressure in the pipe all the way down the train. So let's do that. Connect. On. There we go. But it does mean we do have to wait before we can get going again. And because we left, because we just came from B, everything should be set up for us to just run straight out of the city. And then I'm going to crank it up down the hill and see how long it takes us to derail. I'm expecting we'll derail right around that junction. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the oil well. And we'll see how it goes. We'll definitely derail on this junction though, so. And I forgot to look at the weight. I know I looked at the weight. These are empty cars, only 85 tons. Oh, forgot to release the independent brake. That's why we're not moving. And here we go. I could probably derail us in the yard here, but nah. Let's get up a good head of speed down the hill and see what happens. So I don't think anybody's here, not seen any chat, but in case anybody is watching and this is broken, I've been having a really good time here and thinking about starting a regular streaming schedule, at least for a while with this game. I tend to be a pretty fickle gamer though when it comes to what I'm playing at any given time. I'll play something really intensely until I get distracted by something new and shiny. But right now it's all about Derail Valley. I'm back into No Man's Sky right now. Just, I don't know, it's fun to explore. And playing a bit of SnowRunner as well, which is also an excellent game for me. Let me know if anybody's interested, if anybody's watching this, in me starting a regular streaming schedule. I'm also open to suggestions on what people want to see. I play pretty much every type of game except I'm not big into first-person shooters or, competitive games. I don't really do multiplayer. But, simulations, RPGs, adventure, whatever people want to see, let me know. And I'll think about it. So, alright, here we go. We're getting out of the station. Let's crank this thing up. I do want to clear the yard just... And I've never derailed a train on purpose before in this game, so this should be interesting. And even when I derailed the steam train, I was only going about 25 kilometers. Something weird happened on that section of track. I think I hit the brakes too quickly for an upcoming curve, and my cars just slammed into me, which pushed the locomotive off the track, just derailed it. All right, here we go. Sanded all the way. Should be pretty intense. Alright, let's see if we can get away without sand. That doesn't matter. Yeah, going downhill. 70, 75. See if we can hit 88 and then reappear in the future where the bridge is actually there. Are we going to do it? 83, 84, uh-oh, we're hitting the 70. We are 88 miles per hour. Here we go. Oh, okay. So here's the new tutorial for when you first derail. I hadn't seen this yet. All right. When you're insured, when you go to the nearest junction, just pay the copay and all your fees will be cleared. You can always just take another locomotive there. Yep. The thing it doesn't mention is what do you do with your current job. So we'll do that real quick. Okay, that was actually really fun. All right. Well, I guess we should switch everything off. Don't want to cause a fire. All right. So we're here. Our train is here. Oh, crazy. Is any of it still on the track? Oh, just a little bit. Oh, one car is still on the track. Is it still on the rails? Let's find out. Yep, this car didn't derail. All the rest of them did. So I'll show this real quick, actually, just because I have money. So if we re-rail here, look at that. $1,220 to re-rail that car. No, we're not going to do that. Oops. So, yep, we've got ourselves a big mess here. So what should we do? Well, we need to go to the nearest station, which actually looks like Oil Well North, which in the time I played this game, I've never actually been to. So let's go check that out. So we're here. We need to head to the right. And we'll just teleport ourselves along the track. Try and stay up on the track. All right, here's Oil Well. Oil Well North. Neat. I have not been here. So let's take a look at our schematic, actually. And Oil Well North's all the way over here. And I don't think the tabs work yet in VR. So you just have to cram it all the way over there. There we go. Only one entrance to this. It looks like the station office is actually going to be up this way. Well, oh, right in the middle, I see. So let's see if we can find it. Oh, I think I see it. It's up this way. Go past the big oil tanks. No? I think I went. Oh, I'm on the wrong side of it. Here we are. All right, station office. So you'll notice our job here is still in progress. When we hit it, that's what it'll say. See, in progress. Even though everything's off, it knows we derailed and we're not on the right track. So let's see how much damage we did. Jeez, $120,000 of damage. So if we want, we can hit that, print info, see what we did. So look at that. Oops, keep doing that. So we already used $1,900 in fuel, and of course we've got emissions, and look at all the damage we did to our cars here. Just the loco, 100% damage. So, but remember, we've still got that $100 copay, which is what the game told us in that little tutorial message. So if we back out, oops, we're still in fees. We just want to go to confirm, only $100 to pay that off, pay it, confirm. There we go. Oh, okay, I guess we have to discard it first. So it does tell us that, which is nice. So here we go. Freight haul job. I think we can drop it in the bin here. Yep, there it goes. It just disappeared. So there we are. That's how we get rid of a job. Now, all we need to do is just pick up a new job. Actually, we need to see if there's a locomotive here that we can even use. It looks like something spawned, but we need to look around the yard for it. It should be just to our right. Oh, it looks like it's over in the locomotive shed. No? Well, I'm probably just not seeing it, but... overshot. This isn't working exactly how I intended, but we can stand up here. Is that it? I think that's a... Anyway, that's all I have. Just wanted to demonstrate that because I did see some confusion about that. If you happen to derail your job or your train on your very first job, which, you know, it happens, and they've taken that into account to make it as painless as possible. As long as you know exactly what you need to do. And their little tutorial message definitely helps. There was a bit more confusion before that. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it here. If anybody actually joined me, thanks so much. And let me know if you want to see more. All right. Thanks again, and see you soon.